Welcome to this podcast where we're going to look at using proportions to solve word problems. As you know, proportions cover so much or show up so often on the grade 8 math tax. Big idea, and so we're going to spend some time on that today. All right, for starters, I need you to turn to page 21 in your packet, which will actually be the very first page. And we're going to work through these 4 problems together, and then you're going to complete another 8 on your own, followed by some IXL practice. Now, some of these proportion questions have us setting up proportions, and some of them have us setting up proportions and solving, but we don't always have to solve, so we're not going to do math work that we don't need to. All right? Let's read question number 1. A passenger train traveled 375 miles the first 3 hours of a 500-mile trip. If the train continued at the same rate, which proportion would give T the total time in hours required for the trip? So we know we're going to solve this using a proportion, but the one thing that I've encouraged y'all to do, and I'm going to encourage you again, is to, on the left-hand side, label your proportion. What are the 2 things that we're comparing here? And it looks like we're going to be comparing miles and hours. So let's set it up like that. Miles and hours. And of course, you can short form those. Once we've got that set up, we'll be able to fill this in a lot better. So, next thing we need to do is figure out a pair of numbers that go together. Well, it sure looks like 375 miles in the first 3 hours go together. So let's fill that in. 375 miles over 3 hours. Now, what are we trying to find? We're trying to find T, the total time in hours required for the trip. Well, how long was the whole trip? Oh, there it is. It was a 500-mile trip. So, what else do we know? We know that there's going to be 500 miles, and we need to find T, the time, or the number of hours to go that far. Okay, before you just jump into this and start multiplying and dividing, we're done. Now we just need to find a proportion that looks like ours. And it might look exactly like ours, or it might be a little bit different, so we got to keep our eyes peeled. First one, 375 over T, nope. Second one, 375 over 3 equals 500T. There, right there is our proportion. And we are done. Okay? Now, they also could have written it like this. 500 over T equals 375 over 3. And that would have still been correct. So that's what I mean by sometimes you got to watch for different representations. Let's try the next one. Number 2. After 5 games, a professional baseball team had scored 35 runs. If the team continues to score at the same rate, how many runs will they have scored after game 9? All right, so let's set up our proportion. And then let's label it. What are we comparing? Well, it looks like we're comparing games and runs. So games and runs. Let's fill in what we know. After just 5 games, they had 35 runs. If they continue at that same rate, how many runs will they have after game 9? Well, where does this 9 go? It's a game, so it's going to go up top, and we need to solve for x. Now, let's look at our choices. Well, sure enough, we have to find the exact answer. They're not just asking us to set it up like they did before. They're asking us to work it out, but we can do that. Remember, we're going to multiply the 2 that are across from each other and then divide by the last one. So go ahead and work that one out. I'll do the same. I don't know about y'all. Y'all check my math. You know I make mistakes, but I get x equals 63. X equals 63. Okay, and if you second that, then we'll go ahead and circle that because sure enough, it is an answer choice. All right, let's work on number 3. Okay, just looking at our answers ahead of time, we see, oh, this is just one that we have to set up. So let's read carefully and make sure we set it up right the first time. Carla, an editor, can read and correct 8 pages of text in 68 minutes. If David, another editor, can work at the same rate, which proportion will give P the number of pages David could read and correct in 90 minutes? All right, so what are we comparing? It looks like we're comparing pages and minutes. So let's set up our proportion, label it pages, minutes, and then fill in what we know. We know 8 pages can happen in 68 minutes. And then what else do we know? 90 minutes, so that's going to go on the bottom. And then they're using the variable big P, you could also use X, that's fine, as the number of pages that could be done in that amount of time. All right, let's see if there's one set up just like this in the answer choices. And looking through, it looks like, sure enough, there is. Answer choice B has 8 over 68 equals P over 90. Awesome. One more. Number 4. A package that weighs 10 pounds costs $20.80 to mail. If a package weighs 8 pounds, which proportion will give D the amount it costs to mail it at the same rate per pound? All right, let's set up our proportion. What are we comparing here? Looks like we're comparing pounds and dollars. So we'd call that pounds and dollars. Okay. And let's fill in what we know. 10 pounds would cost us 20.8 or 20.80. Either one's fine. If a package weighs 8 pounds, okay, where does that go? Well, that's going to go up top here since it was pounds. And then they're not using the variable X, they're using D on the bottom. That's fine. We can do that. All right, before you jump in and start solving it, we just have to match it up. Is there one that looks just like ours? 10 over 20.8 equals 8 over D. And sure enough, there it is, C. All right, hopefully this vodcast helped you remember how to do word problems involving proportions, how to set them up, how to label them, and how to solve them. The next thing I need you to do is to complete the rest of the questions on pages 22 and 23, and then be sure and check your work.